I chose Voices of Recovery, and the date is July 23rd. If you have the book and you want to grab it and read along with me, that'd be great. So again, it's July 23rd, and it's one of my favorite readings because for many of us, this freedom came when we took step 3 and turned the entire problem over to our higher power. And that's from the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, page 20. And it says the 12th step of Overeaters Anonymous talks about the qualities we gain as a result of working the 12 steps. But the word freedom appears so many times in all of our literature. I began to think about this freedom from my disease I gained by working each of the steps of Overeaters Anonymous. Freedom from the obsession with food, freedom from insanity and hopelessness, freedom from the bondage of self, freedom from dishonesty, isolation, freedom from running the show, freedom from self-reliance, freedom from blame, freedom from fear of people, freedom from complacency, freedom from loneliness, and the last one is freedom from lack of purpose. That's a lot. That's a lot of freedom. And, when I first came in almost 25 years ago, that freedom from the food, that was the first thing. Freedom from the obsession with food. What a miracle. People talk about surrender with step 1, that we're powerless over the food, and our life is unmanageable. I didn't really get that. I just wanted to be skinny. I got a sponsor, the skinniest one I could find. And so, if you're new, one thing that I always did was compare myself to somebody when I came in that had 25 years. And, you say, oh, I don't get that. I don't have that kind of surrender. And that's not freedom. That's not why we're here, to compare ourselves to others. We're here to take the steps one at a time, baby steps. I really feel God's an old man to me, so he moves kind of slow. And I like that. As I get older, my surrender grows with my program, with my recovery. So, the kind of freedom, I'm down in Florida this week, and, I got a lot of freedom from cold. It is so hot here compared to what I was in New Hampshire, but it's absolutely beautiful. But that's not the kind of freedom that I'm talking about, or that I interpret in this reading. It's cultivating more, the freedom from living in God's will for me today. And what is God's will for me today? Excuse me, my allergies are kicking up down here. But the kind of freedom that I got was when I aligned my actions, my thoughts with God's will for me. That is freedom that is priceless for me. I don't have any of these things that this reading talks about. First of all, I don't have the obsession with food. My food is so quiet today. And it is a freedom that is just amazing. When you're binging and starving one day, mine was mostly, when I came to program, restricting food. That's what I was trying to do the most, just restrict the food so that I couldn't gain any more weight. It just wasn't working. I could do it for a little bit, maybe a few meals, but then, the disease took over and the cravings took over. And, I was back in the food. So the freedom I have today without the obsession of food is remarkable. And I know I have to do my part. I have to chop my vegetables. I have to plan ahead. I have to pray. I have to prepare my food. And I have to protect my abstinence with every breath that I take. That's what program means to me today. And the longer I'm in, the more I have to protect. Because let me tell you, the stinking thinking can still penetrate my brain. Just because I'm abstinent today doesn't mean that I don't still have this disease. I still am a compulsive overeater. A lot of that went along with the eating for me was the insanity of life. I thought I was living like this great life, the great I am, winning is everything, that kind of thinking, and driving myself at work and promotions and success and prosperity. All of that was driving me absolutely insane. Because, and the other side of it is I never felt good enough. I never felt, accepted around people. Never felt loved around people. That's because I was always in my own head. And so this feeling of insanity has been lifted and replaced with clarity, because the food is so quiet. We have given such a gift in 90 days. With this food plan, the ones that have gone before us have taken out all the triggers. I don't have to do the research anymore on what works and what doesn't. Somebody did it all for me. How great is that? I just have to follow direction. And freedom from dishonesty. I was never honest with the food. I was never honest with my weight, going to get my driver's license, lying 20 pounds less or whatever number I could make up so that I would feel loved, accepted, and good enough on my driver's license. Here I was with the big face and lying about my weight, lying about what I ate all the time. I don't know why I'm so fat. I hardly ever eat anything. This lie I told myself, I believed it. In my own voice, I was telling myself this stuff. And when you work these steps and you get to the step 4 and step 5, those freedoms really start to come true, because that dishonesty all comes out in step 5, and you can face another person, look them in the eye, and be able to, talk about the things that I ate over, talk about who I was, and be able to accept my mistakes and my shortcomings. And that, to me, you can't put a price on this stuff. These promises do come true for us. And I try today to live the 12 steps the best that I can. And we talk about in program, we talk about the tools, we talk about complacency. It's one of the symptoms of relapse is complacency. And I recently went on a vacation to Italy. I was gone a couple of weeks and I was abstinent. It was relatively easy for me to be abstinent because I was with my family. I think it would have been harder if I was on a tour and somebody else was in charge of my food, but I had complete control of where I ate and what time I ate. My family was very generous, and my son, Mom, when do you have to eat? What hours are you on today? And that was very helpful and made it easier for me, because people worked around. It was a gift, and that freedom was wonderful to be able to work my program around family and speak up for myself. And but so the food didn't call me, and my daughter-in-law, she doesn't understand totally what I do. She sees my food plan, but she kept saying to me, I don't know why you can't have a little bit of, we were in Italy, so you can imagine the flour products. And she says, I don't understand why you can't have a little bit of that. You're so disciplined. I'm sure you could get right back on, but my daughter-in-law doesn't understand all of the things that we do behind the scenes to be able to sit there in God's presence and not shove sugar and flour in my mouth. It takes effort on my part. It takes prayer on my part to be able to sit among many and not want the food. And that freedom from the obsession of those things that drove me insane, drove my life to be unmanageable, drove me to isolate from human beings, from my family. How many opportunities did I miss at family events because I just couldn't fit in anything that day? All of this has been given back to me 10 times over. And, I'm just so grateful today. I am on fire with this program still after almost 25 years. God has blessed me so much. That's my higher power. Thank you. Who I choose to call my higher power is God and Jesus. And, I do really believe that this spiritual journey that we get on by working these steps, it's like climbing the mountain, the steps going up to the mountain. And yes, there's more than one way up the mountain. It doesn't matter which way you work the steps. What matters is I'm working them. And, I've done many different ways of working these steps over the years, and each one has advanced me in recovery. Each one, I've never regretted one of the ways that I've done it AWOLs and worked them with my sponsor. I did a workbook, the OA workbook for working the tools and the steps. So I've done different things that prepared me for an in-depth study of the steps, which is what I do right now. And so, this program is such a gift. And the definition of freedom, like I said, I wrote it down this morning. If you bear with me for a second, let me find it. Yeah, freedom. It's the condition or right of being able or allowed to do, say, think whatever you want to without being controlled or limited. And I described a lot of freedoms to you, but when it comes to the food, this does not apply to me. That is my truth today. That is my truth. I need a higher power. I need a sponsor. I need to be accountable for my food today. And that's just the way that I surrender today. I woke up food addict this morning. I've heard other people share this, but it really touches my heart to know that, yes, I woke up a food addict today. I will wake up one tomorrow because there is no cure for what I have. It's a daily reprieve based on my fit spiritual condition. So I hope many of you have experienced some of the spiritual benefits of the program, or if you're working the steps now, that you get to experience and grow in recovery, because the disease is very strong, but so is recovery. And I want to put the effort in today. It starts in the morning. If I want all of these freedoms, this is what I need to do. I need to work the disciplines and the tools, get up in the morning, get on my knees. So important to make that conscious contact with my higher power in the morning, because I'm oblivious to everything around me. I pay the price if I don't take that time in the morning to seal that relationship with God, ask Him for help for the day, and continue with this program one day at a time. And staying in the moment is such a big help. I ate a lot of times over fear and anxiety. I can remember before program, I was hit with these panic attacks that I would have, putting my head down between my legs at the office, trying to manage a crew of professionals. And here I was in my office having these panic attacks because I was so afraid. Couldn't identify the fears. That was even worse. And I'm not really able to figure it out. But today I have clarity. I have freedom to go to God. I have freedom to make a phone call. I have freedom to get on my knees. All of these things help to seal my abstinence for today. And like I said, I can't be abstinent tomorrow on today's work. Tomorrow is another day. It will carry its own problems, but it will also carry my recovery, hopefully. So my name is Jane. I am in New Hampshire.